You're right, it isn't easy. There is no single statistic that can answer that question for us. We often assume that the money people make is the measure of their contribution to the common good. But this is a mistake. And this is an argument that I make in The Tyranny of Merit.
Yes.
It's a mistake because we have seen during the pandemic, those of us who were able to work from home have recognized how deeply we depend on workers we often overlook. I'm thinking, for example, of delivery workers, warehouse workers, grocery store clerks, childcare workers, nurse assistants. These are not the best paid or most honored workers in our societies. And yet now, during the pandemic, we've been calling them essential workers, key workers. So this could be an opportunity for a broader public debate about how to bring their pay and recognition into better alignment with the importance of the work they do. I think economic growth and fairness can go together. It's up to us. It's up to us as democratic citizens to find ways to increase the productivity of the economy that give workers a fair share of the contributions they make. Let me ask you a question first about this. Has this been debated among the presidential candidates, and are some proposing a universal basic income for Korea?
Yes.
Right. I think that the strongest argument in favor of a universal basic income is that it could provide income security for everyone. And this could help alleviate poverty, and to some extent could help alleviate inequality. So that is an attractive feature of a universal basic income. A third advantage of a universal basic income is that it could encourage better wages for essential workers whom we've been discussing, because companies would know they would have to provide good wages in order to attract workers. So those are the advantages. The reason for my ambivalence about a universal basic income is that it is sometimes proposed by Silicon Valley entrepreneurs as a way of justifying technologies like AI that they believe in Silicon Valley, that they believe can make work obsolete. And they have a utopian scenario in mind in which They will invent robots that will make work obsolete, but the government will provide everyone who loses work with a universal basic income. I'm opposed to that Silicon Valley scenario for using basic income to make work obsolete. I think that the dignity of work is important because it enables everyone to contribute to the society and to win recognition and appreciation and respect for doing so. So I reject the Silicon Valley scenario of the universal basic income that would enable robots to replace work, because this would undermine the dignity
Yes.
that comes when people contribute.
Mm.
But if the universal basic income is used to supplement work rather than replace work, then it would have the advantages that I mentioned before: income security and lessening inequality. Well, the possible decrease in the will to work will depend on wage levels. If, for example, a delivery worker is paid a very low wage, then I can imagine that providing a universal basic income will reduce the willingness of that delivery worker to work 16 hours a day delivering packages for a low wage.
Yes.
But in that case, the problem is not with the income security. The problem is with the low wages. So one advantage of a universal basic income is that it would force employers to increase wages for essential workers to levels that enable them to live a decent life. And so if the wages are high enough, even with a universal basic income, to do their jobs, I would find that very interesting. It would be an opportunity for me to learn more deeply and directly about Korean politics and current debates. So if we can arrange this with the existing schedule, I would find this very interesting, and I would be honored to meet them, to Korean politicians.
Yes.
Well, we spoke earlier about humility. I think any outsider like me, any outside observer, should respond to any request for advice with a certain humility, because I still have a lot to learn about Korean politics and society. So I hesitate to give any specific advice to Korean presidential candidates, except this general advice, which is, during my previous visits to Korea, I have been impressed by the willingness of Koreans, even the enthusiasm and passion among Koreans, to engage in public debate about fundamental questions of values, not just about the details and technicalities of government, but about values, including some of the questions we've been discussing today, questions about what makes for a just society, what makes for a fair society, what do we owe one another as citizens, what are our mutual obligations, how can we strengthen social cohesion and a sense of solidarity. These are fundamental questions of values that I think Koreans are eager and hungry to debate in public. So my advice to the presidential candidates would be to try to address some of these big, important questions of values in the presidential debates, not only the technical details of policy, but the broader questions of what kind of society they hope to help bring about. Well, this is a larger question than we have time for to go into depth right now.
Yes.
But I do plan to address this question when I come to speak at the World Knowledge Forum, where I can give a better, longer answer
Yes.
to this question.
Very thankful.